Can we get back into it? My brain is like completely fried right now. What we need to do, I guess, is we need to set all of these new variables that we need. So a tile. Tiles are not going to change. Tiles are immutable. So what it needs is it needs public what? Public int default state. Public int current state. That's what it needs. And that means that basically when we make when we write the map, or we load the map and we do the checks, we have to write the default state of the tile for when nothing is inside it. That's the idea. Technically, nothing stops us from changing that if we ever wanted to. And then the building. What we have to do is to recheck a building. We have to do if content positions dot count equals 0. Then we have to oh man, I hope this isn't super fucked. How do we do this properly? How do I iterate through? Wait, I'm already doing this. I already have code for this. Where is it? It's in here. Room check. It's this. Set tile room number. Well, that's not too bad. We can do that. Yeah, that's pretty simple. We don't have to specifically check every single tile that's in the building exclusively. What we can do is we can just generate a min and a max boundary for the room or the floor or the building even. Yeah, why not? And then we just iterate through all the tiles that are in that area, and we just check, is the tiles building the same as the current building? Yes, no. And then we just set the tile back to default. It's that simple. So but that also means that we should set. The building should have bounds. Or all of it should have bounds. I had that before, but I removed it. But it actually serves a purpose now. New building bounds. But no, we don't need a specific class. Just call it public vector 3 vector 4 int. There's no vector 4 int. That's cool. I love it. I hate that there's no vector 4 int. Why would you ever use vector 4 int? There's no reason to ever use the vector 4 int. Okay, I can't think of a single use case where you would want a vector 4 int. Actually, like if you Google vector 4 int Unity, that's what all the threads are filled with. Just asshole programmers who can't think outside of the box. We can still just use a vector 4. It's not that big of a deal. It still sucks though. Maybe we'll actually make a class. But I can just make a vector 4 myself. Like, I've been a little bit pensive about making a vector 4 because the vector class has like 4 million things in it, but you don't actually need any of that. Like, we can literally just make a vector 4 int right now. Because it's just something that it's just actually useful. Vector 4 int. Build aborted. Why? Fuck off. Vector 4 int is static, I think. What we can do, I guess, is if we go public vector 3. Public struct. Oh, it's a struct. Makes sense, I guess. Namespace Unity Engine. Public struct. Vector 4. I equatable vector 3. I formatable. How do you make it equatable? But we don't need it to be equatable. But I would like to know how it's equatable. Well, Tulip. Right now we're just working on the main project. It's I'm working on the rendering pipeline. I'm moving it all away from the update loop because it runs like shit. Be more on demand. But it doesn't seem like they have to do anything to make it aggressive inlining. I don't know what inline means. Static bool operator does not equal. Here it is. Here it is. This is how you do it. ToString. I'm making a vector 4 int. See, well, let's see if we can make this work. Just because it would be fun. So which ones do we need? Compiler services. Just copy them all over and see what it says. I equatable vector 4 int. I formatable. And then we need to implement something. Equals object other. Let's steal that. W equals other dot W. And then I guess it really just needs, we just need this then. Public float. No, public int x, public int y, public int z, public int w, like that. And then we need, it needs to be, they are technically indexable, but who uses a vector like that? I have used colors like that actually, just accessing it via this, and just like using a for loop to iterate through all of them. But let's see. What we are looking for right now is a constructor, right? Static vector 3 slurp. Rotate towards lerp. Where is the constructor? Aggressive inlining. Oh, it's doing it this way so that you can... What does this do? Aggressive inlining. Sometimes it's very useful to index vector as an array and make the code cleaner. Yeah, I mean, sometimes. I've seen it sometimes. Like, once. Once it's been useful. But otherwise, like, you got the XYZW, and that's generally how you want to use it, right? But this is a compiler hint. We tell it that the method should be inline. This does not guarantee inlining, but makes it more likely. What is inline? C# inlining. Inline functions. Inlining. What is inline? Inlining is the process by which code is copied from one function, the inlinee, directly into the body of another function, the inliner. The reason for this is to save the overhead of a method call and the associated work that needs to be done when control is passed from one method to another. So it's literally just when it copies the stuff, I guess. All right, let's just steal this. Yeah, it's basically copy paste, it seems. This one is kind of weird to me. Like, why would I bother making a vector 3 with 2 like this? But at the same time, I kind of like how it is in HLSL, where you can just do whatever the hell you want with a float 4, float 3, or float 2, or whatever. That's kind of nice, but I feel like the way they've done it there, because you can type, like, if you have a float 4, you can type float 4 dot xy xy, and it just repeats the x and y on x and y as a float 4. Or you can type dot z x w x, like in any order. But I feel like the way they've implemented this is just like they just did this. They've just made a bunch of methods for like every single combination. But it's probably more complicated than that, but that's what it looks like. Yeah, it's whistling. But you can't do that here. Which is a little bit fortunate. I think I'll skip this. This though we want. All of this is just so I can have bounds, a square bounds thing stored in one variable. I just want bottom left, top right. That's it. I have it. I have need of this in multiple places already. Scale. I don't need any of this. Cross equals. Equals is good. Reflect. I don't know what that is. Normalize. No. Dot. I don't know how a dot product works, which is probably bad because I hear people mention it all the time in raycasting. Angle, sine angle, distance, magnitude, min. Min is actually good. Maybe we'll steal a min. Isn't it easier? Yeah, but I kind of want the vector 4 int around in general. It's literally just like an int 4. I don't know why it doesn't exist. I just want to have it. Because you got vector 2 and 3, and you got vector 2 and 3 int. But you have a vector 4, but for some reason there's no vector for it. But it's something that I've used a lot. So might as well just have it. And then we also want max. Plus operator. Oh yeah, operators. This is yeah. Also, it's just kind of interesting. We already stole equals and it's not equals. But yeah, let's steal all of these. I'm sure this is completely within the TOS, just stealing their code. A dot W divided by D. Ooh. Cannot convert from float to int. Yeah. Can you do this and have an integer there? And then here, since this is a float that we're dividing with, then we have to cast these values. Cannot convert from float to int. There we go. Do I need to do this though? I think since I'm dividing it by a float, it should be fine. It says that it's unnecessary. There. I'm just assuming that if I divide an integer with a float, that it gets cast to float to do that. Because otherwise, if the float gets cast to an integer, that sounds stupid. But here, like it says that this is redundant, so. However, I don't think we should do this because this truncates, so we should do a math floor to int instead. That makes more sense. Because otherwise it's gonna be weird if you're dividing negative values. Wait, no, isn't it the other way around? Truncate will floor it towards 0, while floor to int will floor... If you have negative 0.2, it'll floor it to 1. That's... yeah, okay, so we shouldn't do that. We should just cast it to integer. Let's see here. We need to make one for each here. So that I want to be able to multiply it with floats and with integers, I think. I wish it was easier to surround things. It's probably a good idea. And what are we doing here? Operator. Did I do this multiple times? Int float. Wait, what's going on here? So it differentiates between if the vector 4 is on the left or if the float is on the right, or vice versa. I mean, it makes sense that that's the way it works with a division. So for this, really, all we need to do is... We already have both of these, so we just copy them again. What just happened? And then we flip these. Yes. Kind of weird quirk. What is this? Oh, this is if we turn this negative by just putting a minus in front of it. Oh, okay. I get it. Isn't this weird? No, that's plus. Okay, never mind. Alright. I think our vector is relatively solid now. Native type. I don't know what any of this means. It's got a native type header. So this is C++, part C++. Math scripting. Namespace, Unity, blah blah blah. So we can't use this. Is this something that they, yeah. Yes. Unity bindings. I brought all of it in. Namespace, Unity engine. You add things to Unity's namespace? Looks like that's a no. But I wouldn't want this anyway, this header. So basically we just skip all of that. Now, does it have to be inside of a namespace? I don't think so. iFormatable. What the hell is that? Oh, that's to string. Unity string format. Inaccessible. Yeah. But this should be fine. Just having that. No? I don't know about this format stuff. ToString. Unity string return. Screw it. I don't want to bother with that. That was too complicated. Are you happy? Overrides object dot equals does not override. It's not override object dot get hashcode. Do I give a shit? Get hashcode. Let's see if it can implement it on its own. Generate get hashcode. Sure. Why not? That's the hashcode. Anything else? No? Okay, good. Now, do we have access to it right away? What's the hash code? I don't know, dude. That's the problem there. That's why. I'm just gonna leave that. Type or namespace name vector for int could not be found. Kind of confused. It seems to work. But not really. Namespace LOTF, using LOTF. So why is it broken? Using namespace directive can only be applied to namespaces. If LOTF is a type, not a namespace, consider using static directive instead. Oh, that's why. LOT, what should we call it? LOT dot types, maybe. There we go. Yeah, the LOTF thing that I was using is actually a class, a static class I made with functions. So now we have a vector 4, and then we can call it bounds. No, it's not good enough. Ah. Fine, we're gonna use vector 3 instead. God damn it. vector 3 int bounds min, vector 3 int bounds max. That's what I was hoping, to be able to just have both of those in one variable, so that x and y would be min and z and w would be max. But I forgot that we have a z, so I would have to make a vector 6. And let's not bother with that. It's probably smarter. So, recheck building. This is where things get horribly tedious. What we need to do now is recheck buildings needs to have I kind of don't want it to access anything else. Main menu test tile controller mesh dot control dot, but it's still safer to just controller C, and then we do for XYZ C dot tile matrix dot get length 2 B dot tile matrix dot get length 1 B dot tile matrix dot get length 0. This is absolutely incorrect. This should be bounds max dot x bounds max dot y and bounds max dot z, and it should be inclusive of that. And the other one should be bounds min. It should go from bounds min to bounds max. And that is I was thinking about putting like checks for if Z or X is too high or too small, but that should be a use issue. Like it shouldn't check that. We should just make sure that we don't check that. So tile C dot tile matrix X Y Z dot current state equals default state. And this is if there are no objects inside the building, then we reset the whole building to default. I'm a little bit worried that that's gonna chug when we walk out, but this also means that we don't have to set we don't have to go through all the rooms and floors and stuff individually to reset a building when we exit it. We just need to do that. But the tricky part comes here. If else, if content positions dot count equals 0, else what? Then we have to determine what kind of content does it have. I'm kind of thinking that maybe the content positions should not include things that are behind it. Content positions should only include objects inside the building, and what we're gonna do instead is that whenever we have an object behind, it's only going to set is object behind, and that's it. Because if that is the case, then that means that if there is an object inside still, then we don't need to do anything. We don't have to do any checks, we don't have to do anything. All we have to do is check, are there still objects inside the building? Yes, no. If yes, then we just leave it. But we will have to adjust the rooms. Maybe this should return a boolean. Because then what we can do is it can check the building, and if we find that nothing else is left in the building, right? Then we reset the building and we return false. Else, we return true. And what that means is that if this returns false, that means we don't have to do the next step. Because if this returns true, that means we exited a building, but there's still something inside. So we can't reset the building, but we still need to reset the next thing, which is going to be, we have to check if the floor is empty. We have to check if the room is empty. And then those things have to be checked. In theory. However, checking the room sounds kind of recheck room. Ooh. That's where things get a little bit spicy. Yeah, it's a 2D game, though it uses 3D logic. I'm unsure if I can still launch it. Seems to launch. So this is, I've been working on this, which is the rendering and a level editor for it for quite some time now. And basically it's all 2D. Yeah, it uses 2D tiles, but placed in 3D. So if I take a character and walk behind this wall here, you know, they're standing behind the wall. Doesn't render quite properly there right now, but you walk around inside it, you know. You can walk into buildings and stuff like that, walk behind things when it works, which it doesn't entirely. But this runs really horribly. We're running at 90 FPS now, so I'm trying to change this from being run every single frame to being run when we walk into or out of a building, for example. Because I'm doing way too many checks on all the tiles to make them render in the correct way. But yeah, this is meant to be a 2D turn-based RPG or tactics RPG. So but the reason I'm doing all of this is so that you can like walk inside buildings and stand on the top floor, shoot things from windows and stuff like that. Now what was I thinking? Right. We need to check the floors and the rooms. Recheck room. So now, if content positions.count equals 0 inside this room, what we have to do is we have to also check and c.floors, no, c.buildings, building number, dot floors, floor number, dot content positions dot count equals 0. And that's really the only check we need to do there. Because we don't need to check the room. The room doesn't need to know that. Yeah, exactly. But it was running pretty fast before. Because all I needed to do was just... Because each tile has some metadata. It's still not great, but it did run fine. Like each tile has some metadata, like it has which building it belongs to and which floor it belongs to. So I kind of just had to read it and then just determine right away what it was supposed to do based on like where the player was standing. But that worked really well when I had one player character only. But then I had to implement multiple characters because we might have, you know, that's how it's meant to be. You're in battle, you're controlling multiple characters. You can switch between them. A character can stand inside of a building, another character stands inside of another building. Or you have a character that's standing on another floor inside the same building. And because of this, I ended up having to do a lot of reiteration and like check. Like when I was checking a tile, I had to go in and be like, like I had to go through all the characters to see if the tile had any characters standing in that building, in that room, etc., etc. And it just became a mess of iterating over multiple things for every single tile that I was rendering. So that's why now I'm trying to change it so that when a character moves inside of a building, you just set that building to render in a certain way. And then, because you also walk into a room, when you walk into a building, you set that room to render in a certain way. And the floor also renders in a certain way. And then when you exit, if there's nothing else there, it just gets reset to normal. And that should hopefully not chug that bad. But it can't be worse, because it'll literally just be the same thing I was doing before, except it'll be on demand and on a lower scale, or a smaller scale. So there won't be as much iteration at all. And it'll only happen once. So, yeah. But, hello Lan, how's it going? Now, did you fix your... Yeah, I did. It runs at like 300 FPS now. I'm working overtime on the main project, so I'm not sure I'll stream any of it today, but I might, because there's some small things I want to test. We'll see, because I'm gonna stream this until 10 p.m. I'm not sure I want to stream after that. So, rooms. Do you have trigger points? What I'm gonna do is every frame when a character walks around, he checks what tile he's standing on, and the tile itself contains information whether it's in a building or not, and it contains which building it is. So when I'm walking around, all I'm doing is I'm checking what building am I standing on now, and if that is different from the previous frame, then we launch some behavior based on if I exited a building or if I entered a building. That is basically how it's supposed to work now. So we're checking this room. And this is where things become tricky, because this is where the logic has to be now. So basically it's gonna have to be, we have an if statement here. This is no longer, this is just a void. Doesn't return. And so now here, this means that the building is empty. But this means that the floor is empty. No, we actually don't need to check this. Well, we kind of do. And we don't need to check the building, because we don't reach this unless the building has already been reset. So this is really only for changing the room to another room. So that means for XYZ, no, we need this again. Regardless of what happens, we're iterating it again, but we're not setting it to the default state this time. Oh, this also needs to check if C dot tile matrix XYZ dot room dot building number equals building number, then we default state it, because otherwise it's outside of the building and then we don't want to alter it. And tile, temp tile. Then when we get in here, we're gonna say temp tile equals that, maybe? So I don't want to keep retyping the tile matrix. And this is where things get really, really tricky, because we need to do this. If temp tile dot tile type equals 1, then we do that. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6. You could do else if, just so it doesn't have to evaluate. Yes. And 1 equals, what does 1 equal? 1 equals floor. 2 equals I think 2 is floor. I'm not using 1. One is ground and 0 is just nothing, I guess. Weird, but sure. Three equals roof. 4 equals horizontal wall. 5 equals vertical wall. 6 equals door. But in all honesty, I think if I do what I was doing before, or what I was thinking of doing, where we only set rooms to be transparent, kind of, that should make the code a lot easier to write too. And here we check if the room and the floor has nothing on it. then we reset it. No, that's not right either. The default state should only be written from the building, I think, because... Yeah, this is wrong. Default settings should only be written from the building. Running room or floor check means by definition that building has content. See, here's where it gets a little bit tricky, because the hardest part that I don't know how it's gonna turn out is how to render the building when you have characters on multiple floors. Because it's like, how do you do it? You have to have some kind of focus mechanic where you can like scroll up or down. I don't like it when it's like really hard, like in XCOM or in old school XCOM or in Xenonauts, where you have to literally find like the exact correct Z value. That's a little bit annoying. But if you can find the floor level, I think that would be fine. Now, what if you have a character standing on the bottom floor and you have 3 floors and you have a character standing on the 3rd floor, and all of those are supposed to have vision? Now, how do you render that properly? Do you just make the top floors invisible? If that character isn't selected? Because at this point, you have to have some kind of focus. So yeah, it's either for the character that's focused, or it's if you focus a character that sets the focus level to that Z height, and then you can because you still want to be able to see that there's a character up here, right? So I still think you need to show it in some manner. I was thinking transparent, but with like a little square underneath it or something that is colored based on height. You can also have some kind of outline up there as well with the same color idea. But you like, that's the thing, you still need to know that something is up there. Because you might be able to change between characters when you're selecting, or click on them to look or something like that. So, but then I also have to write the rendering scenario here, how to actually set the tiles, how they should render, and that's the tricky part here. And now the idea here is that I'm thinking, like, how can I set? Can I set like presets? Kind of. Because there should be basically 3 levels of focus, I imagine. If you enter a building, what should that do? What should entering the building do? The building should hide the roof. Should it do anything? I think maybe... Sure. Entering a building should... It should just make us iterate through the floors and then set the floors, and that's it. So a floor that does not have any characters in it should be set as completely opaque if it is below us. But if it is above us and has no characters in it, it should be set as completely transparent, no render. That's how I'm thinking, at least. At least for the time being, because I'm also thinking if you still want to imply the height of the building. No, that's what we're not doing. We're not making a separate scene for it. That's the easy way. You just make a warp and just teleport into another scene. That's the easy peasy way. But I'm also building this to future-proof it a bit, so we can use it for other things. For example, we're making a tabletop game called Terrestria War, which is a mini war game. And we could just, we could potentially make a game that's just that, based on this engine, because we are able to walk inside buildings and such. Like, it doesn't make any sense in a story-based game setting, but if I wanted to, we could have like destructible buildings and stuff like that quite easily, because they're just voxels. I can just destroy the voxels and then just make buildings collapse based on some parameter or something. But not exactly something we want here. But like, you could have those kind of things for blowing up walls, and you can at least have it in a story-based setting for like barricades and whatnot. But I mean, that's you can do that in any way. Like, it doesn't have to use voxels or anything. Neighbor yelling at their dog. I'm losing steam a little bit. I'm pushing beyond my limits. But rooms. Let's start with, this is for rechecking a room, but let's do public void set room tiles. Controller C. And this is for entering, so we don't want to check for that. We don't want to check for if there's nothing inside, because there is by definition something inside. So we literally just have to check for that. And then now we have to decide. What should happen with the things? So, since we're standing in this room, the floor is going to be current state equals 0. The roof, if there is roof in here, equals 1 arrow 6. And what this means is 0 means that it renders normally, 1 means that it doesn't render, and the arrows is because I bake information into the integer that I send to the shader. So the last 2 bits are used for telling the shader what state to render the tile as, and the other 6 bits is it's the slice throughs. It's these. It decides if there is a slice through value in there, it uses that value to pick the correct slice through and render that. And now if there is a horizontal wall, here it gets a little bit tricky, I guess. But really all we need to do is we need to check if c.tile matrix x y minus 1 z dot no, we need to do a LOTF point in poly check. Base Z is going to be room Z, room height, vertices, and the point in vertex is going to be new vector 3 int x y minus 1 z. And what that is checking is, it's a little bit heavy. But it's basically checking, where do we need this though? It's checking if the tile below is inside the room. And if it isn't, that means that this needs to behave in certain manners. But the point in poly check is kind of rough, I think. I could potentially... I could speed up the point in poly. Because what you can do is you can check the vertices, and if the vertex list is greater than 4 in count, then it's a polygon. So if it's 4, then that means that the room is square, and then all we need to do is a basic AABB check. Because that's a lot easier than doing the point in poly check. Even though I still think the point in poly check is relatively quick, it's still not fast. Because it has a for loop in it, and it does, you know. So if this returns false, or if this returns true, that means that it's the top. Then what we should do is, if temp tile dot current state equals 0, then we set temp tile dot current state to no, we're not setting it to anything. We're only checking the tiles that are below. So if this is false, then we are going to set what we can check is, well, it doesn't matter. If whatever is below is outside of the room, then we set it to 2. That's it. Well, it shouldn't be 2, it should be 3. The idea of the 3, 0. Zero is render, 1 is don't render, 2 is transparent. But 3 is transparent that renders transparently inside of a building. Because the way the transparency works is that in the shader, it has to read the tile, and then it has to continue down until it finds something to combine it with. So it continues down until it finds literally anything that is set to render state 0. And then it combines those. But what it's also set to do is that if it falls within the building itself, then it still renders opaque. And the reason for this is so that if I just walk behind a building, I just set everything to 2, so it's transparent. And that way it tries to render transparent, but if it doesn't find something else other than the building itself to render against, then it doesn't become transparent, it just stays opaque. And that's so that when you walk behind the building, only the tiles that fall behind the building itself will render transparent. Otherwise, if I walk behind a building, the entire building becomes transparent on itself and it looks stupid. So 3, the idea there is that it becomes transparent even if it falls within the building. And that's for walls, internal walls, vertical walls, etc. So we set it to that. And then we also need if... since we're checking in the room, what we're going to check is if... How should I do this? Should I put a list on every single tile? Because they need to have... A tile can belong to multiple rooms. So... And that's simply because if a wall is just one tile wide, and we have 2 rooms next to it, then those rooms also include the walls, because they need to render them properly, or to set this, the render state. I need to be able to tell if a wall belongs to 2 rooms. Do I though? Do I really? The only thing that I could do with that is have separate room heights. Like say you have but it's not necessary. Is it? It's like, let's say you have a little stairway up to another room, and you have like a slightly elevated floor roof on that room in like a little corridor or something that goes somewhere outside of the building, kind of, but it's still part of the building. And that's slightly elevated. The roof is at a slightly elevated level. Then what these slice throughs, as I call them, that you render along the edge of the wall, those might want to be at a different level. So and that's why I also need to check multiple walls, because if a wall is wall in wall with another room, or if a room is wall in wall with another room that has a higher roof, then we have to determine which height we will use when we render this slice through, right? So I had to determine if I use the higher one, which I will. But to do that, we have to find the higher one. And to do that, we have to figure out what room we're in. So as you can tell, this is a total mess. Program. I think it's time for a break, because my brain is screwed. I'm not sure I'll be able to work after the break, but I'm gonna take a break and make some tea, and then we'll see. But I'll be back in, I'm not sure, 20-30 minutes, something. See you then. And we're back. Kind of, if I can recover. Hello, I'm here. I almost forgot that I was on stream for like a second. I'm just thinking, we have like a really big, a really big building that's circular, and I'm just thinking about how to implement it, like logically in the game. But you would probably use images in this case instead of tiles. To some degree, there has to be some combination of techniques. And the collision as well, for the rounding part of the building. But that could pretty much just be square based. It's probably not that big of a deal. But it doesn't matter if it has to be spread out across a bunch of tile sheets either. There's always a way to solve things. Now, where is my tea? Now the question is if my brain has enough juice left to figure the things out here. If... Right, we have to get the other room. Let's add that back to the tile. There's no reason to not store that. Well, there are reasons to not store that, and that is, for example... Oh, it was never in here. But that is, for example... storage space. Keeping them all in memory. But keeping them all in memory is a non-issue. Like, even if it's 12 million. In our voxel project, we're keeping 25 million in memory. So who cares? And now the entire code is broken? No, it's not, because we didn't add anything here. What am I doing? What do we need to do? What we need to do is go back to room. And then we are checking if No. We don't need to check the other rooms. I don't think so. What we can check though is instead of doing a point in poly check at all, all we should possibly need to do is do a if now that the tile has room ints in it, what we can do is if temp tile dot room numbers dot count is greater than 1, then we do something. Else we set it to that. Right now this is horizontal wall, so if this only has one wall and we are inside it, that's what we're setting now. If it only has one wall, it's a horizontal wall. We still need to do point in poly check. We can do a +1 if point in poly is outside of the building. No, not even that. All we need to do is we need to check based on room base Z, room height, and then we check below. And if that does not belong to this room, then that means that's the front floor, a front wall. So that means we set it to that. Else but honestly, it doesn't matter if it belongs to the front wall or not. Else else if temp tile dot current state is not equal 0, then we set it to that. And if z equals room base z plus room height, then we set temp tile current state equals temp equals slice through equals temp tile dot slice through tile bit once. Because like I said, I no longer want to show the slice through at the bottom level. I found a little frog smiley on Discord and it's great. Is it this easy? Is this it? Do I even need this? No. I think if we're inside of a building, if we're inside of a... No, it's not that easy. If we're inside of a building, then by default, everything should be opaque. Except for the room we're in Well, except for the floors we're not in, they should not be opaque. They should be not rendered. And what I could do is, for example, render the back wall and the sides, the extreme sides of the building, and kind of show the floors, one tile of floor or something, just to visualize the building. That's a possibility, but right now it's not important. But I could easily do that. But when you are on a floor inside of a building, all the other floors become transparent or invisible, and everything that's on your floor becomes opaque. But I still have to go through all the rooms. Because they all need technically, you could optimize this even further and just have like states, like hard states on the tiles that they just switch between based on certain parameters, instead of setting it like this based on this and this and that, set it to this and this and that. But I don't know if it matters. Anyway, the floor should render normally, except for the back should become transparent if something is behind the building, and the walls on the room that we're in should become transparent on the bottom side, and then whatever is above should be fine. However, it's when we need to start setting the vertical tiles, that's when things become kind of spooky, because then we need to write the tiles visually instead of logically, because but that should be fine. Like, it shouldn't do anything. It shouldn't matter. Well, it might. It actually might. Because what happens is that if a tile is within a room, then we set the tile to contain that room index in a list of ints, and if I just use that, then I can't access those tiles. So here we're setting temp tile equals that, but what we simply have to do is well, I'm not sure what the logic is, but we'll probably have to add -z there, I think. Yeah. So we'll have to make another temp tile, or we will just have to simply call it like that with the minus. I don't know if it's worth. Because the thing with caching here really is that most of this is used like once, because it's all branching code, so it just goes into a branch and then it just finds what it needs. So even if it says like temp tile everywhere, it's used like once or twice per call, so it's like almost meaningless to cache. Oh. Everything that I just talked about is completely gone. I don't remember a single thing. I still want to get more done here, but we're not getting a lot more done. It's like, even if I want to, we just can't, so. But basically, there should only be two states of horizontal wall now. Transparent and opaque. And the only time it should be set to transparent to 2, because we're gonna set it to 3 here. The only time it should be set to 2 is when it's the back wall, but that also does not really need to be set to 2. It could be set to 3, but I can set it to 2 anyway. So all we do is we check below the room if that is within the parameters of our room. Then we set it to transparent. And if we are at room height, then we set it to have a slice through as well. Else, if this is a room that's above, we set it to... Heck, I wonder if it could technically be set to 3 as well. Because in the shader, I actually go through the objects and I check. But let's not do that. But what we needed to check here, where we lost super focus, is if temp tile dot room numbers dot count equals 1, then we set this to be and building c dot buildings temp tile dot building number is object behind is false. Then we set the current state to be 0, and then we do this. But here I've confused myself. I think we don't want that, because I already did everything in there. Well, here's another thing. We don't actually need to set the tile above us. This should not be necessary. This should be all that we need to do. We check for the walls that are below us in this room, and then we set those to be transparent. And that's it. Because that is the highest priority state. And if something is in the room above us, where that tile is like intersecting it, then that room will set that tile to be transparent. So it's already transparent. And if it's not transparent, then we don't want to do anything with it. We don't want to set it to be opaque specifically here. So this is all we need to do. When we enter a room, we set the bottom wall transparent. That's it. Now, there are questions that you might want to expand on here later. Like you might want to have a sub room. Let's say you have like a closet or something that you want to walk into. Something like that, like anything. It's just as like a small sub room, like a, you know, storage area or something tiny. that just has a door and just counts as a room, then you might want to be able to walk in there and it behaves slightly differently. But until we need that, I'm not gonna bother. That's like a super niche thing. Hmm. I recently read Todd saying that they want Elder Scrolls 6 to be a game that holds up even in 20 years after the release, by the way. It's not gonna hold up 1 year after release, because it's gonna be fucking garbage. Elder Scrolls cannot become a good game. Like, it literally cannot become a good game. It is impossible. It will never ever happen. Purely because the company is just no longer an innovative company in that sense. They're only going to keep doing the same thing that they've done, slightly improving on it. But Elder Scrolls games, they need to be completely different. Like, it does not work the way they're doing their games. I mean, it does, technically, with the sales. But like, as a game, it doesn't make any sense the way they design Elder Scrolls. It should not be a story-based game with pre-written stories. Like, it should literally just be about them trying to generate a living world where things happen. And like, that's what the game is about. But that's too hard, so instead they just put in some shitty quests and put some fucking flowers on the ground, and that's it. And then everybody loves it despite it being garbage. Yeah, I don't really care about Hogwarts. I only care about it because it's making the right people angry for stupid reasons. But I don't really want to stream games anymore. Like, I don't know. As long as I can, I'd rather just keep focusing on programming. Because I know that nobody's going to make the games that I want. So the only way to do it is to make the games I want. And I'm actually past the worst part now, so I can almost start doing fun stuff. On both projects. Which is gonna be nice. Also, I only know who one of those people are. Blake Mesa project? What? He just wanted Half-Life again? Is that all he wanted? No one else wanted to do it. Yeah, I know. I mean, kudos to him, but I just don't get it. I don't get that project, to be honest. But as long as he enjoyed it, that's fine. The reason I don't get it is because to me FPS games are just glorified platformers, and I don't really understand them. So I don't really understand remaking an entire someone else's game. Like, it's the same game, it just has better graphics. So I don't get it, making that like your life's project for 10 years. But I don't know, that's just me. Man, can I keep going? I'm not sure I can. I think I might stop here. My brain just cannot handle this anymore. Here we're setting 0. We've already done the horizontal walls. What about the vertical walls? They're gonna be exactly the same, right? Except here, instead of checking this, for the vertical wall, it doesn't matter if it's inside. What we need to do is simply do we can't do temp tile there. We need to do if. Well, no. How do I do this? We kind of need to do a separate for loop. Man, it's weird. No, it should be like this. Vertical wall should be if tile type equals 5, but this should be y minus z. Because then we're checking this way instead within the premises. And then it needs to just it should just do this. This is it. Now this is a little bit this is a little bit tricky there. So what we need to know is we found a tile that is tile type 5. So we need to do int our height equals 4. And here we're gonna do c.buildings building number dot rooms no we just do the tiles room numbers dot count, and then we do we can set our height equals 0, and then we set int to bool. Oh, if I is less than that, then we set our height equals I dot rooms, no, c dot rooms dot room height is greater than our height, then set it to that, else our height. There. So that's a vertical wall, and then a door. A door is a little bit more complicated, and I don't remember how doors work, but technically we've pretty much done the room logic now, I think. And it's 100 million times easier here. Holy shit, this is so much easier. But it'll be a little bit troublesome in this part where we reset. But like I said, we'll stop there for today. But I've been thinking ever since yesterday morning about ray tracing stuff, so I'm gonna try a ray tracing stream for like 2 hours, so I'll be back almost right away, but I think I'm gonna take a little short break. So I'll see you later. Until then, thanks for hanging. Bye bye.